Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. What has happened in the West Asia conflict is an increasing criticism of India's foreign policy. We People are saying that either we are very differential to Washington, we are falling in the lap of Israel. This is what the general criticism of India's foreign policy has been as far as this West Asia conflict is concerned. But where does India stand? What should India do at this point of time when you have multiple emerging power structures? Joining me this evening is Mr. Najeeb Jung, who's former LG Delhi and a veteran bureaucrat. Thank you, sir, so much for joining on the Federal. And from your view, how do you see the Iran-Israel war and the kind of criticism which is coming up as far as India's foreign policy is concerned?
Okay, there are two bits to your question. First is the Israel Iran war. The other is the question on our foreign policy. Now, on the war, there are different news coming through. If you see the YouTubers and the people you interview every day, you feel that you sense that Iran seems to be doing well. They seem to be hitting the Gulf countries. If you hear the right-wing Western media, you will get the impression that the Americans and the Israelis are doing extremely well, that Iran is getting demolished and destroyed. I think the truth lies somewhere in between. There is no doubt in my mind that Iran is getting a very heavy beating on the field. Their cities are being destroyed. Tragically, historic cities like Isfahan have been hit. And now yesterday, the Kharg Island that was hit will bring, enormous amount of hardship to Iranians. On the other hand, this is a battle of war of attrition, where Iran is undoubtedly hitting back very vigorously, causing extreme damage to the West Asian countries. I think the Americans seem to be immune to the damage being caused and the loss of life being caused, and that's sad. That to my mind is extremely inhuman, because there was no need for this war at all. Having said that, I
No, but
think
do you
over
feel
time.
that India had the leverage of its positioning because it does have good relations with America, it has good relations with Israel, it could have done more? And that's what the people feel. And the critics of India's foreign policy also say the same, that had India wanted, it could have warmed up to Iran in the initial days. Now, say, for example, even expressing condemnation over the killings, signing over the condolence book, all that came very late. Did India act late in this entire episode?
Look, India has not acted at all in this episode. The signing of the book is neither here nor there. I think we also tend to exaggerate India's influence in the world. I don't think that India counted very much for the Americans right now. And I think that India was currying needless favor with the Israelis when the Prime Minister went to Israel, knowing fully well that the war was only days away. To my mind, strategically, it was a mistake. It sent out a very wrong message to Muslims in India that he was visiting Israel during the month of Ramadan. There was no need to do that. Vis-a-vis Israel, we want to be friends, we want to borrow their technology, we want to buy their spyware, we want to buy arms and ammunition. So you can cultivate them. But I don't think that you can influence the Israelis into going to war or stopping the war. I think that Indians tend to exaggerate their own influence vis-a-vis any country. In the world today, we may be a growing power, but internationally, America has shown us that we don't count for very much. So when our foreign policy is criticized, I think that it was a realistic assessment that stay quiet, you can't do very much.
No, but the people and the MEA persons who have worked with the government earlier, they say that this is not the time where we start seeing the foreign policy through the alignment versus non-alignment frame. And they've given examples that look how we've opened up to China also. Now they've opened the Chinese investments in the past. Russian oil again, they are back to buying Russian oil. So and India is pandering to the multiple emerging power structures. So what is wrong in that? If you look at the pragmatism view, and this is what people like Akbaruddin and people like several other diplomats have been saying, that this is a pragmatic approach which India is deploying.
Like I said, Nilu, I think it's a approach where India has no choice because you know your limitations. You know that your voice will not be heard. So stay in your corner. Don't get into the boxing ring because we'll be knocked off. Nobody will care for you. So therefore, where India stands today is where it should be, which is that you can tell the world that we are the world's third or fourth largest economic power, but that doesn't matter at all to the world at large. You conceded completely to the Americans when they said that we'll impose tariffs. You conceded completely to the Americans when they said don't buy Russian oil. That, to my mind, was pretty insulting. And now, the icing of the cake was that the United States says that for 30 days we will permit you to buy oil. And then we have a news item that Reliance has intervened to get us that 30 days reprieve. Now, that's pretty insulting to me. We are a power that was respected. I go back to the days when Mrs. Gandhi showed up to President Nixon in the bad old days of 1971, or the days when President Kennedy was going around the White House reviewing all the rooms in Blair House because Pandit Nehru was coming, the great Nehru was coming to meet the President of America. That was the respect that India had internationally. Or when Jawaharlal went to the USSR and how he was welcomed by the Russians. That was a different time and era. We are today in a in an age of realpolitik where America has a president where he knows his sense of power and he knows the pulls and pressures that he can put on the developing world, and he still thinks that India is very much part of the developing world rather than the developed world.
No, but many times, the silence which India adopts in many cases, like people do ask questions that why is India quiet? Why is India not taking a stand? But many times, this silence is taken as a smart and a clever move by remaining silent, and you tend to go on all sides. And then again, that comes to the pragmatic approach which India is adopting in the foreign policy. So, would you get convinced by those people who say this, that look, we are with China, we are with Iran, we are with everyone, and yet, do you feel that India is losing a voice? It stands everywhere but nowhere.
Let me tell you a small story. There used to be football matches in Delhi in the good old days, in the Durand and DCM football matches. And there used to be a massive wrestler coming from the Jama Masjid area just during the final. He was called Badshah Pahalwan. And Badshah Pahalwan used to say, dono achhe, meaning everybody is well. So this is the kind of approach that we are having right now. It's more an approach of not being able to do anything because you don't count for anything. Please understand that today, if you were to say something, nobody would care for you. Look, the new chief of or the Ayatollah of Iran has spoken to President Xi. He has spoken to others. But we have managed to speak only to the president of Iran. There's something missing. And we must understand that. We must understand our limitations
You
and
are
where we
saying that
stand.
Prime Minister, so you are saying that instead of speaking to President Pezeshkian of Iran, Prime Minister should have called up Mujtaba Khamenei.
That's what I believe should happen because it is Mujtaba who counts. You know, the president has been fairly sort of insulted after he said, he approached the Gulf countries saying that we are sorry, we are bombing you, and later had to retract. Because Iranis, there is a great concept of sacrifice in Iran. The idea of their ability to take a beating and stand, it goes back to the days of Karbala You cannot beat Iran into submission. You can destroy them militarily, but this will become, to my mind, a war of attrition. Iran will be destroyed badly. They'll be hit economically, but they will not lose this war unless you kill each and every Irani, unless you nuke them. That's a different ball game altogether.
But many times, another criticism comes in that India is scared of something. India is under pressure, and which is why all these allegations come up now. Whether that pressure is Adani, whether that pressure is Epstein files, I'm not getting into those details at what could be the compelling factor. But then, should we look at India's foreign policy from that prism? Whether we are fearless, fearless, or we are ready to adopt and choose what comes our way.
No, Nilu, I come back to the same old question. You can call it pragmatism, or you can call it a realistic understanding of the situation of where you stand. I don't think, like I said, and I keep repeating myself, that we have done what we could. More than that, I don't think India can do in terms of convincing anyone on how to act in this war. You can perhaps say that please end the war, it's enough is enough, but who would care? Who would listen to you? The decision will be taken by the Israeli influence or by the Zionist influence in the United States. That is absolutely clear.
No, but these are times, Mr. Jung, also of weaponized hard power. So, what should India be doing now? Say, for example, in terms of this conflict, what should it do in terms of a weaponized hard power? We see how America is flexing muscles. We are seeing how Israel is flexing muscles. Now, what can a country like India do at this point of time?
Well, from a moral standpoint, I would take you back to Gandhi. That today, if India had a Gandhi, India would say that what is happening in the Gulf is wrong. India would say that we cannot go back to inhuman conditions. That we have to look back at humanity as it should exist. That is what Gandhi would have done, and that is the stand that India would have perhaps taken in, like I say, in the bad old days. But
No,
today
but
things are different.
right. But why do you think that, and what is stopping India, according to you? What is your assessment? You've also been watching the way things have been happening, whether it is the West Asia conflict, whether it is the Russian oil episode, whether it is the US trade deal. There are so many things. And since Operation Sindoor has taken place, we are seeing how Donald Trump has been treating India. Now, in this kind of a scenario, again, that the difficult and the most complicated question, that what should India do to make its foreign policy look robust? Do we really have answers to that? I
No,
mean, it's all
I'm
right.
afraid.
It's all right for the opposition to say that no, we should take a stand. But given the kind of limited options now we have, and maybe the government is to be blamed for it in the last 11 years, what we have done to our foreign policy. But what is the option right now, given the kind
No,
of framework we're operating in? Yes.
Neetu, you have answered the question yourself that we have lost all options. You see, America is not listening to you. Mr. Trump would not care a fig for what we say today. We have just sucked up to Israel by going there and trying to please and hugging Netanyahu when you knew that an illegal war was on the anvil. So we are closing our options. Our options in the neighborhood are so limited. We are not friends with China. We have inimical relations with Pakistan. We try to be friends with Afghanistan, which counts for nothing at all because they count for nothing. And it's really absurd to be friends with a country which has all kinds of allegations of human atrocity on its own people. We have hardly any good relations with Bangladesh. We have no relations with Myanmar. So I really don't know where our foreign policy stands today. It's not, you can't just go and meet people and say that all's hunky dory. It's something more than that. And so I don't know enough of what you can do because you have really boxed yourself in a corner. And I would really look at the old experts who have worked in the ministry and who are still around, people like Shiv Shankar Menon or Sham Saran, who know a lot about Indian foreign policy and go back, maybe form a think tank there and get their views. I mean, what is the point of a Sham Saran or a Shiv Shankar going only and speaking on television? I think
Right.
he should be there in South Block talking to the Mandarins there.
Right. I would want to draw your attention to an editorial which Mr. Syed Akbaruddin wrote in yesterday's Times of India. Now, he has written, and I'll just read out a few paragraphs. He's saying, running scared with a question mark. Nope, we are playing smart. And of course, he's spoken about pragmatism and several other issues, but I'm just going to read out a little portion and to which I would want you to respond. He's saying that India, one second, yeah. So he's saying that that is an older way of measuring freedom of action. For India today, the more serious question is whether it retains operational autonomy, enough energy flexibility, economic resilience, technological access, and strategic choice to avoid being trapped by any single pole. So, as far as energy security is concerned, or energy flexibility is concerned, economic resilience is concerned, technological access is concerned, now, if you go by these yardsticks, I think India is trying to achieve everything of that. No, but then he again harps on the pragmatical approach of which the country is adopting, and he is trying to sort of deflect all the criticism by saying that look, India is just trying to play smart.
Sure. Oh, that's the way of expressing himself. He's just been in this government. He's just
Hmm.
retired from this government. He's seen this through, and he wants to please everybody who's in power. He's writing what he thinks is acceptable. To me, I you can write all this, and all this may be true. But what is indeed true is where you actually stand in the world. So let's push aside everything that he has said, and all of it is true. But the reality of it is, what is our power in the world today? You have many, many experts saying that India should speak today, India should intervene today. I yesterday heard somebody from the EU saying that India should intervene. And there are many, many people in America that you hear that India should intervene. But I ask myself that question, that to whom will we intervene? What will we say? And what who will hear us? आप कह तो कुछ भी सकते हैं, but the other person must respect what you are saying. So India, I think, is being wise in understanding its limitations. Call it pragmatism, call it understanding your limitations, but India is being wise, staying where it is, and let's see how the war translates. Because look, India has friends in the Gulf. Now, India can't upset them. You have millions of dollars. How many? $7 billion coming into India every year from the Gulf. We can't afford to upset them. So let's keep quiet. And truly speaking, where does Iran matter to India? The Shia population in India is 2%. Shia among Muslims is 2%. So in India, it's even much less. So why should we put our fingers speaking for Iran, which may be on the right side? Now, that is pragmatism. That is real politics, that I don't want to speak to you. You may be in the right, but I want to stay in my corner and protect my rights. And that, to that extent, I think India is doing absolutely right by staying quiet and perhaps working the telephone lines to these Gulf countries that, look, we stand by you.
But when people say that India should have gone an extra mile, to speak to Iran and also try and say some plain words to America and Israel, but India seems to be wanting on that front. It's neither doing that plain speaking to America, it's neither doing that plain speaking to Israel. But yes, it's mollycoddling Iran in its own way and in its own limited way. So, is that where you are saying that India is going wrong?
No, I'm not saying India is going wrong. I'm saying India has no choice. That's what I meant.
All right, all right. So, what do you think is a way out now? Because do you think that India is losing trust with Iran? Now, the Strait of Hormuz is completely closed, but now we are reading reports that the Strait of Hormuz is closed only for America and Israel and not for anybody. But the practical problem is that all the allies of Israel and America will also end up suffering. Do you think that India will have to face the consequence of this? That because it is seen in the lap of Israel and America?
Yes, I think news is exaggerated that Iran is opening up its the Hormuz for Indian ships. I think that is exaggerated. It should be tested with time in the next 2, 3 days. The Iranians would not forget that they have been the feeling of being let down at this very crucial time, and it would be difficult for them to forget this. I also don't believe that, I mean, look, the Chinese ships are going. Even ships from other countries, they put on the Chinese flag, and they're allowed to go through. Now, that's economic power. As you see, China has not said very much, but it
Yes,
has demonstrated its economic power just through the Strait of Hormuz.
right.
So I think that the game is very much on, and we will really be considering all our options within government right now on how to get over this Hormuz crisis rather than the war itself, because the Hormuz crisis is what will hit us badly. And I think that the telephone lines really have to be worked with Iran right now. Their ambassador has spoken well in the last 2 days of
Yes.
friendship and etc. etc. But I don't know if he carries any weight with the system. I don't know if he made placatory noises because he's here and he wants to sound all right. I really don't know. But um,
Do
but
you
I, I
think
really think
do you think that if you look at Iran's perspective or from Iran's lens, if we are to speak, do you think that Iran would be satisfied only if Prime Minister Modi speaks to Mujtaba?
I don't know the hurt that Ayatollah Mujtaba feels right now vis-a-vis India. Would a phone call be enough? I have no idea, because Mujtaba has lost his family. I mean, he lost his father, he lost his wife, he lost his daughter. Here is I'm told he's injured himself. So in the midst of all this, what his frame of mind is vis-a-vis a country that has not spoken for last 15 days, when he's being beaten unfairly, unjustly. He didn't ask for this war. His people didn't ask for this war. He doesn't have a nuclear weapon just now. And even if he were to have a nuclear weapon, who's anybody to stop him from having a nuclear weapon when others have a nuclear weapon? Who
Right.
has used nuclear power elsewhere in the world before this? So if we look at reality around Mushtaba, I am not on the aspect whether Iran should be denied a bomb or not denied a bomb. But but look at Mustafa's mindset, that what he has being denied and what he is being denied over last 30 years of sanctions, very vigorous sanctions.
Hmm.
So I don't know if a phone call would make a difference. I mean, something more would be required, something like maybe the foreign minister to fly over and meet people there. That possibly, could be one gesture. But would India afford that with the Americans and the Israelis looking over our shoulder? I doubt it.
We'll have to wait and watch. This is a situation which is continuously unfolding and lots of changes every hour are happening. So we'll see how India tackles the situation. But yes, West Asia is one of the most serious crises which the world is staring at. Thank you so much, Mr. Najeeb Jung, for joining on the Federal. Thank you, sir.